Okay, so we're going to work through these questions while we're working with group frequency tables to calculate estimates of means or medians. These are generally, you can think of them as grade B questions that more often than not come up on the numeracy papers, but can also come up on a maths paper. And generally, they're on a paper too, where you're allowed to use a calculator to help you with the calculations. So this first question, a group of pupils was timed in completing a maths test. The results are shown in the group frequency table below. So whenever you come across a group frequency table, what I always suggest you do is make sure you understand what each row is actually telling you. So if I pick that row there, the context here is how long it takes to complete a maths test. So this row is telling me 17 of the pupils who sat the test took between 5 and 10 minutes to complete it. It's inclusive of 10 minutes, so if they finish in exactly 10 minutes, they'll be in this row, but it's exclusive of 5 because you haven't got that extra little or equal to line on your inequality. So if they took exactly 5 minutes, they'd be in the row below. So the first thing that we have to do is to complete or to draw a group frequency diagram to illustrate this data. And because we didn't do this in class, so I couldn't prompt you, just reminding you that if they're asking you to draw a group frequency diagram, then basically it's a bar chart with connected bars. So the first bar is taking us between 0 and 5, and we're going up to 19. Now it's a pretty horrible scale they're using here, so it's jumping from 16 to 20, so halfway between there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be 18, so 19 would be halfway again, so you're looking at 2.5 squares. So that's representing between 0 and 5, and then between 5 and 10 it's 17, which will be 2.5 squares up from 16. Then between 10 and 15 it's 10, so it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then between 15 and 20 it's 5, so it's 2.5 squares up from 4. And then finally 2 between 20 and 25. So that's a group frequency diagram. If they would have asked for a group frequency polygon, then what you would then have done, rather than draw the bars, you would put a cross at the midpoint between 0 and 5 up at 19, and so on, and then join the crosses together with a ruler. So sometimes they'll ask for a group frequency diagram, other times a frequency polygon. You need to be able to deal with both. Okay, part B, calculate an estimate of the mean time taken to complete the test. So this is a trigger for you. You're working with averages and you're in the second half of the paper and they're asking you for an estimate. So that should trigger the method that we're about to talk about. So we know that there are 19 pupils who took between 0 and 5 minutes. But because they're grouped, we don't know exactly what the times were. They could all have been 5. They could have all been 1. Or something in between. So because it's an estimate, what we do is we find the mid value, what's halfway between 0 and 5, and the mid value is going to be, add them together, divide by 2, so it's 2.5. So because we're estimating, what we're doing is saying, well, we're going to assume all 19 of those are at the average between the two. So I'm going to take 2.5. For this one, it's going to be halfway between 10 and 15, sorry, 5 and 10, which is 7.5. Either work out the difference, half it and add it on, or add them together. 10 and 5 is 15, half of 15 is 7.5. Halfway between 10 and 15, add them together you get 25, half it 12.5. Halfway between 15 and 20 is 17.5, and halfway between 20 and 25 is 22.5. So we are estimating, because we're assuming that all of the pupils in that category took 2.5 minutes. All of the pupils in that category took 7.5 minutes, and so on. So once we've done that, that's the new work. It then links to what we were doing previous lesson, where the table was also grouped, but it wasn't within intervals. So I need to find a total of how much time it took those 19 students. So to do that, I multiply. So I'm going to do 19 times 2.5. 17 times 7.5. 10 times 12.5. 5 times 17.5. And 2 times 22.5. So to find the mean, I know it's the total divided by the count. So to find the total now, I'm going to add all of these up. So 47.5 plus 127.5 plus 125 plus 87.5, plus 45. Press equals, and I get 432.5, and I have to divide that by the count. How many pupils sat the test all together? So to find that out, I've got to add the number of pupils together. So there are 19 there, there are 17 there, plus 10, plus 5, plus 2. So 53 students sat the test. So the mean is going to be 432.5 divided by 53, which is 8.2 to 1 decimal place. Now what's really important with these questions is you do the workings out. Okay, you write down what the mid value is, you write down what each total is, and you write down how what sum you're doing to calculate the mean, because there are 4 marks for that, and one of those marks is finding the midpoint. So even if you muck up after that, just writing that list down will get you 1 mark. If you don't do it, sorry, if the examiner can't see it, you can't credit that mark. You are going to get a mark for correctly multiplying to get each of these values and then adding up to get that total. And then you're going to get a method mark for having the total divided by the count, and a final answer mark. So it's really crucial that you're doing your workings out, or showing your workings out. Part C, write down the modal group. So the modal group is the group which has got more pupils than any other. So on the table, it would be on the chart, it would be the highest bar, or on the table, it's going to be that one because there are 19 pupils. Really common mistake is to write down 19 as your answer. 19 isn't your answer. 19 is showing you where the modal group is. So the modal group is between, T is between 0 and 5 minutes. Question 2. Broadcasting company, stateside, investigated television viewing habits. The table below shows the number of minutes 80 people spent watching television last Wednesday. So pick a row. That is saying that 38 people spent between 90 and 180 minutes watching TV. And the or equals in this case is connected to the 90. So if they watched it for 90 minutes exactly, they'll be in that group. But if it was 180 minutes exactly, they would be in the following group. Did any of these people spend longer than 15 hours watching television last Wednesday? Give a reason for your answer. So the time is in minutes, so 15 hours, I'd multiply by 60, is 900 minutes. So if you look now at the table to see where 900 minutes fits in, you can see 900 minutes is off the scale. It only goes up to 810. So did any of these people spend longer than 15 hours? No. Nobody spent longer than 810 minutes. Okay. Part 2, calculate an estimate for the mean. So there's my trigger. It's estimate. That means the method is the midpoint. Midpoint times frequency, etc., etc. So let's put the mid value in. Okay, so midpoint or mid value, halfway between 90 and 0 is 45. Halfway between 90 and 180. So if you do 90 plus 180, remember to press equals, divided by 2, 135. 180 add 270, divided by 2, 225. 270 plus 450 equals, divided by 2, 360. 450 add 810, divided by 2, 630. Then we're going to multiply these together. And on the exam paper, you can do this workings on the table. It's easier than actually filling in the box. So the examiner will be always checking back to the table to see if you've used the table to perform your calculations. So we go 45 times 10, 450. 135 times 38, 5130. 225 times 20, 4500. Okay, so that's all the business on the table. The mean is the total divided by the count. Now this time they're telling me what the count is. They're telling me there's 80 people, so I don't have to add those up. But I do have to add these up to find the total time. So 450 plus 5130 plus 4500 plus 2880 plus 2520. 15,480. Now, when I perform this calculation, I'm going to get an answer, and I want to make sure that that answer is sensible. So the best way of doing that is looking at where the sort of modal value of the data is going to be. Most, in this case, of the time is between 90 and 180. So I would be expecting my mean to be pretty close to that. If I'm going to have an answer which is going to be bigger than 810, I've clearly done something wrong. But if it's quite high up there as well, it's worth checking my work. So 15480 divided by 80 is 193.5 minutes. Okay, and 193 is in that group there. So it seems about right. So I'll be quite happy that I've got that right. Question 3. When visiting a hat shop, customers had the circumference of their head measured. The table shows the results for the customers who bought a hat during December. Check the sense. So if you go to buy a hat, they'll put a tape measure on your head, measure the circumference. So this is saying that 32 of the customers had a head circumference between 54 inclusive and less than 58 exclusive. So if they measured exactly 54, they would be in that group, but if they measured exactly 58, they'd be in the next one. Calculate and estimate for the mean. There's my trigger. Midpoints. So MP for midpoint, 52, 56, 60, 64. So sometimes you can see those if the gap's not too big. Other times it's easier to add them together and divide by the gap. Divide by 2. So I'm going to multiply now each of these. So 52 times 12, 56 times 32, 60 times 14, and 64 times 2. Mean equals total divided by the count. So the total 624 plus 1792 plus 840 plus 128. 3384 divided by, doesn't tell me how many customers there are, so I've got to add up the total number of customers. So 12 customers plus 32 plus 14 plus 2. So the count is 60. There are 60 customers. I'm looking for an answer that's probably going to be somewhere between 54 and 58 because that's the modal group. So 3384 divided by 60 is 56.4. I'm happy with that. So 56.4 centimeters. Part 2. The hat shop sells 4 different sizes of hats. The conversion table from head circumference to hat size is shown below. So if you've got a head circumference of between 54 and 58, which we know 32 people have, then that's a hat size 2. A salesman places an order for a new stock for the hat shop. The salesman's order form shows that about half of the hats ordered are size 2. The owner of the shop says the order should show that about a quarter of the hats ordered are size 2. Who is more likely to be correct, the salesman or the owner of the shop? Well, as I said, hat size 2 is between 54 and 58. So customers with hat size 2 are 32. So 32, I want to now think about what fraction or what percentage of the total number of customers there are have got a hat size of size 2. So that would be 32 out of 60, because I know that that represents a total of 60. And 32 out of 60 is 0.53, which is much closer to a half than it is a quarter. So I said 0.53, closer to a half than a quarter, so the salesman is right. So the salesman is correct. So that part B has got nothing to do with estimating the mean or working with the averages. It's just getting that information out of the tables. And then the final question. In the mountains of Grub, the snowfall on each of 28 days was measured. The results are summarised below in the table. So this is telling me that on 10 days that month, the snow depth was between 15 inclusive and 25 centimetres exclusive. Calculate and estimate for the mean daily snowfall. So midpoint, halfway between 5 and 15, add them together, you get 20. Half that, you get 10. Halfway between 15 and 25 would be 20. Halfway between 25 and 35 would be 30. And halfway between 35 and 45 would be 40. Now always make sure that don't just assume they're going up in tens, because sometimes these categories will vary, so there won't always be a gap which is the same amount. So then we're going to do the multiplication. So I got 50, I got 200, I got 360, and I've got 40. Mean equals total divided by count. Well, I know the count is 28 in this case because it's on 28 days. If it didn't tell me that, I would add up the number of days. Then I'm going to do 50 plus 200 plus 360 plus 40, 650. I'm expecting an answer somewhere between 15 and 35. They're quite close. So 650 divided by 28 equals 23.2. That is, I'm happy with that. It's somewhere in that middle region there. So I'm quite happy that that is the right value. State the modal class. So the modal class is the depth that happens more than any other, which is 25 to 35. Because that happens on 12 of the days. And then to find the median, just like we were doing on Monday's lesson with group data, Friday's lesson, I've got 28 days, so I'm looking for the category that the 14th day is in, because the median is the middle value. So the first 5 days are there, then we have 10 between 15 and 25. So the median, the 14th day, is going to be in this group here. So that's going to be 15 to 25. In the mountains of Terragal, the data collected on snowfall over the same 28 days was as follows. So Terragal, the mean daily snowfall was 20 centimeters, but the median daily snowfall is 9 centimeters. Ralph was on holiday in Terragal for these 28 days. He does not understand how the mean snowfall could be as high as 20. Ralph says on about half of the days there was less than 10 centimeters of snowfall each day. Write a brief explanation to help Ralph understand how it is possible to have a mean of 20 with a median of 9. So the mean is affected by the total. And the total snowfall only needs a couple of days of really, really heavy snow to have a large increase on the mean. Okay, so the mean is affected by the total snowfall. If you only have a few days which has very heavy snow, then this will increase the mean, but it won't make any effect on the median because the median is always the middle number. So it wouldn't matter if, let's say, on 3 days you had 6, 9 and 10. If you had really heavy snowfall on that day and that ended up being like half a metre of snow, then that's going to make a big difference to the mean, but the median isn't going to change. But not affect the median. So the mean is affected by the total snowfall because it's total divided by count. So if you have a few days which has got very heavy snow, then that increases the mean because the total snowfall goes up. But it doesn't necessarily affect the median. So, as I said at the start, those are grade B questions, and it's all firing off that trigger, second half of the paper, and they ask you for an estimated mean. As soon as you see that, that's the method that you have to churn out, and if you can do that, it's usually 4, 5 or 6 marks that you're going to pick up, and in our class you should be expecting to pick that up.